Danielle Najarian, and we are at the C3 Cosplay Collectible Con right now. I'm standing here with Mr. Mark McKenna. How are you today?
Very good, thank you.
What brings you to this convention?
I'm a comic book artist for about 30 years. I've worked for Marvel, DC, I worked Star Wars. I've done work for pretty much 600 comic books over the last 30 years. 600? Yeah, give or take 20, I guess, but I'm friends also with the promoters, Dave and Sal, and they had asked me to be a guest. It's fortunate I live 25 minutes away from here, so it's not a big commitment as far as, travel is concerned.
That's awesome. I came about an hour and a half or so.
No, I used to live upstate, so it would have been an hour and a half, but I've recently moved to Central Jersey, so it's not such a big deal.
So tell me a little bit more about your run-in with DC. I'm a very big DC fan.
Oh, okay.
Good friends with Paul Levitz. Sure. Are you familiar? Yeah. Tell me about your run with that, and what were you writing for DC? Well,
Paul Levitz actually was the president up when I started at DC back in 1986. I was going to School of Visual Arts in New York City. And the new talent coordinator at DC was Sal Amendola, who was teaching perspective at Visual Arts. And when push came to shove and I was a senior, I had to decide what I want to do with the rest of my life. The chairman of the art department introduced me to Sal. I went up to DC Comics. Sal sent me home with samples, and I thought, this is where I want to be the rest of my life. So I did the samples. He told me that if I stuck with it, I could be professional, and that's all I needed to hear. Then I had tunnel vision, and within a few years, I got a job at Marvel. Marvel hired me as a staff artist back in 85 and 86, so I graduated 82. 85, 86, I got a job at Marvel, and then late 86, DC hired me to do Dr. Fate, and then I jumped ship and went over, and I was on contract at DC from 86 to 91. And then I went back to Marvel and did Doctor Strange. But DC was great, though. DC was great to me always.
Yeah. So how was it seeing Doctor Strange kind of come to the film industry and see the movie made? Have you seen it? Yeah,
I loved it. That was stuff that they worked on. Was more of the Steve Ditko stuff from the 60s. But I had done 9 issues of Doctor Strange, so it was really... I was waiting for Marvel to collect the stuff I did and put it out in trade paperback, but they didn't do that. Because they tend to do that. They always find, like when I did the Scarlet Witch miniseries back in '91, they collected that because she was in the Avengers movie, right? So they collected that stuff and put it out as a trade paperback. So you always get incentives based on sales, 25 years later. It's always a little surreal, but that stuff is in their vault. So you get to make that later. It's a nice opportunity. And the collections, it's always nice to have it in collected form.
Yeah, I'm a big collectible fan myself. Have you been able to get out to Comic-Con in San Diego? Have you been out there?
Last time I was in Comic-Con in San Diego was 11 years ago. It's just become such a beast. And we have to pay for everything, basically, out of pocket. It's hard for me to do shows where everybody's paying for me, and then I say, San Diego, you've got to pay your own way. You have to make about $2,000 just to break even. We think about the travel, the hotel, the food, the expenses. So I'd much rather stay at the shows that take care of my business for me.
Yeah, and they're close to home. Yeah, because when I was living in LA, I used to just drive 3 hours to San Diego, and I would go every summer. I loved it.
Well, I've always been on the East Coast, so yeah, that becomes that kind of burden. Although I will say I'm going to Costa Rica in July 29th. You want to come?
Oh my gosh! Yeah. I would love to. Do you need an interviewer? Do you need a host?
Yeah. Costa Rica invited me to, I think it's the first show. They used to do something called PlayCon, which is a gaming show a few years ago. They stopped that. They said there's only so many board games they could sell, and they felt they wanted to do more of a comic convention with a media guest and a cosplayer. So they asked me, they said I was such a big success 3 years ago when I did the show. They want to have me back as the first guest at their comic show. So they're going to take care of that, the flight, pay my long-term parking, pay my, my bag checks and everything. So I'll be doing that this year.
When is that?
That is July 29th, 28th, 29th, that last weekend in July. Then I have a big birthday coming up in April, but my wife's going to be buying me tickets for a 10-day cruise to Alaska. So I come from Costa Rica, then I go to Alaska, then I come back, and then the week after that I'll be in Palm Springs for a Comic-Con in Palm Springs, California.
Oh, I love this. This is awesome. They say that Alaska cruises are amazing.
It's been a dream for me to do this one, so we're going to do 10 days. Should be fun.
Very nice. Now, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, I'm still stuck in Costa Rica. If you need a host, you let us know. We will follow you around, and we will literally film you the entire time. We'll stay in the same hotel room, me and my photographer.
I know, right? I mean, who knows what they need? But at this point, I mean, I say, what do you, I ask them, do you need media guests? Do you need cosplayers? And they're going to keep it very simple this year because it's a big budget for them to fly us there from here. So,
So now, what are you working on right now, currently?
So even though I have an extensive career in Marvel and DC, I'm doing my own stuff now because when I worked for Marvel and DC, I was work for hire. You don't own anything; you just get the rights to use the characters. I'm using that stuff though now for to do my own book called Combat Jacks. It's a sci-fi book I'm doing about space Marines versus monster jack-o'-lanterns. It's a throwback to the early 50s and 60s horror books that they used to do from EC Comics. Fault of Horror, Weird Science Tales, all this stuff. And I'm a fan of that stuff from the 50s and 60s, so for me it's a little bit of throwback, a little homage to that stuff. I also do a children's book called Banana Tale. It's about a monkey who thinks he's turning into a banana because he ate so many bananas as a kid. And he grows up with a yellow tail. And I'm on my fourth storybook of that.
So you have a children's book. You're doing your own comic book right now. And what was the name of your comic book?
So Combat Jacks is the comic book. You can go to combatjacks.com and you can find it there. It's 3 issues are done. 4th issue is halfway done. And I'm trying to be careful that I don't promote the book before it's done because I work with other guys. I work with a production guy, I work with a letter, I work with colorists, and all those guys are very busy, so you try to work with their schedules.
Yeah, exactly. When you have a team like that, you got to make sure everyone's on the same page.
On top of the fact that I'm a freelancer, I just know how these things work, so you have to be patient with things,
Right. Now, are you still with DC and Marvel as well?
I haven't done anything for DC or Marvel in really years. The last thing I did that was mainstream was probably Star Wars.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible.
Heard of that, right?
Yeah. Hello, I was born around that era.
So
wow.
The Star Wars books I did were for Dark Horse before they lost the rights to Disney, who's now Marvel. But I did the Blood of the Empire and the Knight Errant covers, and I did Purge, which is a Darth Vader book for them.
Oh my gosh.
And they collected all of those. I got to be part of the Star Wars celebration in 2012, which was really fun to be part of.
Oh my gosh, I'm standing here with a legend, and I had no idea. If we want to see you next, where can we see you again?
So I'm going to be at the Finger Lakes Comic Con in February 17th weekend in the Finger Lakes. I'll be back to Dave's and Sal's show here, Garden State Comic Fest. I believe it's in June this year. And then I'm going to be in Costa Rica. Sorry.
Okay, so let me know when that's going to happen. I'll give you my card and we'll talk. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but I think if you go to markmckennaart.com.
There you go.
And you can find my calendar there of events.
So that's how we'll follow you from there. Wonderful. Mark, you know what? I'm so grateful that you took the time to talk with us. I know you've been busy. He has like a booth upstairs and he's literally been going all day here. Are you going to hang out with us later for the karaoke and all that?
No. I actually have dinner plans with my best friend. When I moved back to Jersey, my best friend lives in Short Hills.
Okay.
He's literally 15 minutes from my house. And we make this is a guy I grew up with. We worked at McDonald's together when we were 17.
Oh, wow.
Now we're 40 years later and we're live closer than we've ever lived to each other. So it's kind of nice. So we're doing dinner tonight.
No, hey, anytime, any chance you can get to hang out with a best friend for that long, I mean, I'd take it. I was about to go to Washington, D.C. to see my best friend from California, and I didn't. I came here instead. But any chance you get to hang out with them and be with your friends that are family, do it.
I will say my friend Rick does karaoke, so maybe I'll bring him in afterwards.
Oh, yeah, do that. Yeah. Go hang out with him and then bring him back for karaoke. I love it. Guys, Mark McKenna right here. Stay tuned for our next interview, and we'll see you guys later.